This video is sponsored by Flexispot. What if medieval knights wielded lasguns and power weapons? Welcome to Mabon, a feudal death world lost in time. Here, wealthy knights and nobles are in fact relic hunters, exploring lost sectors and finding new technology. My kill team is among these wealthy knights who seek their fortune among the stars. Ever since I saw the new Cities of Sigmar miniatures, I really wanted to do a project like this. It took quite a bit of time to figure out which kill team exactly I wanted to represent on the tabletop. The main reason I landed on the Blooded was so that I could include the Ogryn. To get inspired for their backstory, I opened up one of the older books and started to read through the guard regiments. And I really enjoyed the idea of having something close to the Stoyans but from a much more crueler and much more feudal world. I selected several sprues that I thought would be good candidates for the parts I needed. Then I assembled all of their bodies and began to prep them by removing some of the parts of insignia that looked a little bit too Age of Sigmar. And I got started on the first member of the kill team, which is going to be the Commsman. I picked out a pretty common looking rifle, however the fun part was going to be this massive horn, which when translated into the Warhammer 40k is in fact a very powerful voxcast. This way she can scream all of her commands across the battlefield, but due to the special acoustics of this megaphone, only those she points at can hear it. And most importantly, I gave her a really cool communication backpack. With the first miniature assembled, I didn't even realize the Monty Python looking theme that I had going for this kill team now. Then I got working on the trench sweeper that I felt pretty confident about. I got the perfect shotgun from the Genestealer set and then reattached it to the arm that was previously holding the Warhammer. Then for his shield, I picked out the biggest one I could find that had all of these beautiful ornaments. One of the alternative ideas I considered for this kill team was for them to represent breachers, primarily so that I could utilize a lot more of the shields. In hindsight, I'm really happy that I didn't go that way because I just didn't realize I didn't have any shotguns or any appropriate weapons that would have matched them. For my trench sweeper, I did swap out his body with a different one just because I thought the pose worked a little bit better. When it came to the Corpseman, I was particularly excited about it. I had this arm from the Sisters of Battle kit that would be a really close representation to this Vestoyan artwork. It was a very easy arm swap and it went on like a charm. Not only did I make a miniature that matched an artwork I really enjoyed, but additionally it also had the needle that I needed. And with a slingback rifle, she was a pretty close representation of the Corpseman. And to represent that suitcase full of different medical supplies, I found this perfect backpack. It features a lot of the similar equipment and I was really happy with how it looked. When I got to the Enforcer, I just decided to build him exactly how he's supposed to be in Age of Sigmar. Instead of a power fist, he just has a massive wooden club. And if you don't listen, he's gonna boink you on the head with it. As none of my arms will be holding a bolt pistol, I did simply carve it out and then attach it to his back. This way he should still be able to swap that massive wooden club with a bolt pistol. The chieftain for my team is actually gonna use some of the arms from the Blooded set that I ended up picking up from my friend. And of course I gave him the biggest helmet I could possibly find. I thought it would also be interesting if the thing on top of his helmet would represent some sort of a personal shield similar to an iron halo. Then of course I gave him a las pistol and this really cool backpack. After all, they need to hoard these relics somewhere. But first I'd like to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Flexispot, that make these really nice chairs that are very comfortable, and more importantly, I finally got to replace my chair that was essentially falling apart from this point from just so much wear and tear. I used to think it was very hot in my room, but then when I replaced the chairs, turns out that I just needed some extra ventilation that the C7 provides because of this very cool mesh design. You can adjust almost every single part of it, from how far you sit forward, how far you sit backwards, lean, tilt. During my painting process, I can just hold my hands like this, rather than sitting like this the entire time. It's a lot more comfortable, that's for sure. Most importantly is this back support. When you're sitting in it for too long, I'm sure you want to relax and unwind, so all you have to do is just pull this lever and you can lean all the way back in this very comfortable lounge mode, as I like to call it. The chair also features a 30-day money back, so you can try it out, and if you don't like it, send it back. And they also have a very nice warranty where some of these parts are supported up to 10 years. Make sure you head on over to Flexispot.com and check out some of their current Black Friday sales, which some of them are quite enormous, and check out the C7. It's a very nice chair. For the Butcher, I ended up going with something very simple, but at the same time, he ended up becoming one of my favorite models. Instead of a cleaver, he has this enormous axe and then a powerful mace to break through any armor he gets close to, with this interesting pose as if he's already challenging someone in the battle. Then I picked up Gunner with a plasma gun, but I wanted to make it a bit interesting. Plasma weapons are quite famous for sometimes just simply exploding from overheating, so he no longer has his plasma pistol, but he does have this very new and interesting prosthetic hand. And quite honestly, I don't have a reason why he has this radio pack. I just think it looks really cool. I also picked out a face that reminded me most of someone who had his plasma pistol overheat. For the Flencer, I'm actually going to be making a Fencer. For him, I'll be representing him with this much older fellow who's a bit more out of shape. Yet in battle, his years of experience and a surprising swiftness allows him to surprise his enemies. When they realize the mistake they have made, both those power weapons have already slashed through. For the last gunner, I actually ended up making her as something else and getting to primer to test her out, then I realized I should probably give one of my guys a grenade launcher. With that, my kill team was nearly ready, but I was still missing the massive Ogryn and the sniper. I was quite surprised that when I got to assemble the Ogryn, it was only a few pieces. But one idea I really wanted to go for was to actually replace his head with this Ogryn from the Blooded kit. I really thought it was a good idea, and I did my best to shape out his neck and then grab some green stuff to fill in the difference of the gap. I spent quite a bit of time trying to sculpt that a very nice looking neck, but this is the thing I didn't realize. When I actually looked at the head, I realized I don't like it. But I invested too much time into it, so I thought I'd leave it and see if I can just grow to like it. You know, a face only someone who Kitbashed could like. I removed the massive pole from his back and instead replaced it with this interesting pack. I thought about giving him 2 power maces, but it just didn't look interesting enough. So instead, I replaced it with a shield. That looks very similar to this knight holding it in the Battle of the Agincourt. And while it looks comical, a power one of Ogryn behind that shield strike is not going to be something you'll be laughing at. And finally, I just replaced the head. I could no longer stand to look at it. The surface of Mabon is coated with this horrible yellow sulfur that seems almost beautiful at times. For this exact reason, the color I decided to go for is yellow. But to make matters worse, I decided to speed paint them in 2 days and see if I can have an entire kill team painted in under 12 hours. Speed painting is already a challenge. Speed painting yellow is an additional challenge. Now, to achieve a sulfurous yellow, I need to have a color that is yellow, but at the same time transitions to a yellow-black. And I'm sure we know that when you mix yellow and black, you get a really awful result of an unpleasant green. To solve this issue, I'm going to be base coating the miniatures in a black-red. This way, I'll be eliminating entirely the blue pigment from my miniatures, so this way, when I actually get to apply the yellow, I'm not going to have any green on it. Afterwards, doing a zenithal highlight with white. Even though I still wanted the transition for some of the areas to contain this black yellow, I needed to coat most of the miniatures in a white color. With the first hour complete, I felt pretty confident the project was moving in a good direction. I spent the next 30 minutes applying the Imperial Fist contrast paint, and things were looking pretty good. Two and a half hours in, my Ogryn was finally finished, and I finally understood exactly what I wanted to do with this color scheme. The problem is, now I have to do it on all of my miniatures. 4.5 hours into the project, all I had to show for it was the fact that I began to base coat brown on my miniatures. Then it took me 1.5 hours to do all of the metallics. It was a little bit faster than doing the brown, particularly because I was using my metallic paint that applies in one coat, whereas with the brown, I really had to go over some of the areas several times. I felt quite confident with how much time I had left, so I decided to use some highlights on the yellow. Then for the final push, I finally finished my blue highlights, and the project was basically done. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that I've colored a lot of the weapon parts in blue, and it's not just because they're all power weapons. It's sort of a combination of their power weapons, their force fields, their shields, their conducting some sort of electricity or energy. It's combined into this one theme of blue, energy, or something special about it. Now, even though technically painting them only took 8 hours, the reality situation, it was closer to 12. They're really half painted. That's sort of the whole point of speed painting, is you have to put in sacrifices on details. The more colors you choose, the more difficult it gets. I can still add more details to these miniatures, and I really plan to. I think it's a really cool idea to constantly come back and revisit your project and give them a little upgrade. But at the same time, I already have a kill team that's entirely usable and, oops, looks pretty cool. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, but for now, let's see the final result.
Fought through